This is a huge theory. We explain why Charlotte, Vanessa and Locke could be half siblings, and why the Witch Queen was the one who cursed the Rosalie family with Charlotte's Rose Curse, a reference to the Sleeping Beauty fairy tale. And we show why the Witch Queen then began to have contact with the Crow Devil Raum. Black Clover, the truth about the Witch Queen, here in Unami. To understand the theory, you really have to watch till the end because every piece of information is very important for the entire theory. One of the great references in Black Clover are classic fairy tales, such as Cinderella for Grey or Little Red Riding Hood for Charmy. In the case of Charlotte, her story relates to Sleeping Beauty. Here it is very important to understand that the idea of using references is not to take a classic story word for word over into a new story, otherwise it will be not just a reference but a copy. Sleeping Beauty, or the so-called Little Briar Rose, which perfectly matches the name of Charlotte's magic, Briar Magic, is a classic fairy tale about a girl who is cursed by an evil fairy, and that curse can only be broken through true love. Over time the story had received many different adaptations, and the most recent from 2014, produced by Walt Disney a year before Black Clover was serialized in Shonen Jump, is called Maleficent and fits the best for Charlotte's story. I will now roughly explain the adaptation while showing the direct references to Black Clover. Maleficent is a powerful fairy who lives in a magical forest near a kingdom. The Witch Queen is a powerful witch who also lives in the magical forest, the so-called Witch Forest, near the Clover Kingdom. Maleficent falls in love with a man who later betrayed her. We can't yet find a direct reference for this in Black Clover, except that the Witch Queen hates men for reason as yet unknown. In Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent began to despise men because she was betrayed by a man. This gives us the idea that the Witch Queen might have been betrayed by a man as well, which is why her hatred of men arose. If we look at the grimoire of the Witch Queen, we can see that she is definitely from the Clover Kingdom, and therefore whoever might have betrayed her is most likely also from the Clover Kingdom. Back to the Sleeping Beauty. Devastated by this betrayal, Maleficent turned the magical forest into a dark place and transformed a raven to serve her. In Black Clover, based on the flashbacks we saw of Vanessa and the Witch Queen, we know that at the time when Vanessa was very young, the Witch Queen was actually a pretty nice person. We saw Vanessa free and not locked in a cage. She showed the Witch Queen her magic and wanted to help people with her magic when she is older. The Witch Queen agreed and even encouraged her to do so. There was absolutely no evidence of the Witch Queen's selfish intention towards Vanessa's magic. The Witch Queen even smiled. With this, Tabata wanted to show us that the Witch Queen was really a different person back then, and that at some point something happened that completely changed her. Even her clothes aren't the same as they used to be. She wore lighter colors and not those dark crow feathers, but colorful flowers. Everything about her gave a wonderful positive vibe. The crow reference is especially important here as it goes perfectly with the raven from the Sleeping Beauty story. More about the crows later because this is really important. Back to the Sleeping Beauty story. After some time, Maleficent finds out that her ex-love has a daughter, and vengeful she cursed the girl. On her 16th birthday, she will fall into a permanent sleep. The curse can be broken through true love, which Maleficent believes does not exist. And in Black Clover, a powerful person cursed the Rosalie house from reasons yet unknown, focusing on a completely innocent girl. The Wolf family will get stuck in time, which is very similar to the sleeping curse. The curse is activated when Charlotte turns 18. The only way to break this curse is with true love. Very similar to the Sleeping Beauty story. The reason Maleficent chose this option to break the curse is because her ex-love, who is the cursed girl's father, broke her heart and trust, and Maleficent wanted to prove that true love does not exist. And in Black Clover, that mysterious powerful person cursed an innocent girl for a reason yet unknown, and as we already know, the curse has something to do with the Rosalie family. It's definitely a vengeful act against her parents, just like in Sleeping Beauty. The logical conclusion, if it is really a Sleeping Beauty reference, is that this person had a relationship with her father who one day betrayed her. Now to the question, why should this person be the Witch Queen or have anything to do with the Witch Queen? We know that Charlotte said that the curse is definitely not the normal one, but use the power of another world. Here Charlotte is definitely referring to the underworld. The only ones who are most likely able to use curses from the underworld are the Agrippa family, Danica when using Megicula's magic, and the Witch Queen. The reason we believe the Witch Queen can use curses with power from the underworld is because we have already seen how she could heal Asa's cursed arms. This curse most likely came from the underworld, as Veto used magic, which is likely also from the underworld, as he is strongly connected with the underworld due to the reincarnation. Veto used magic that Yami did not feel as normal magic, and Veto even spoke the language of the devils, the same language that Zagreus spoke. So if the Witch Queen can heal curses from the underworld, it is not unlikely that she can also curse with the power of the underworld. There are two ways to use curses from the underworld. Option 1, you must be in contact with the devil, or option 2, you must be connected with the underworld. The possibility that the Witch Queen can use magic from the underworld is possible because the Witch Queen owned one of the magic stones. These magic stones are directly connected to the underworld, so she could have cursed Charlotte with the help of the magic stone and the power of the underworld. This magic stone was later given to Asta. We know that using magic stones can change a person's humanity. If we assume that the Witch Queen used the magic stone to curse the Roselle family, we can assume that she has changed due to the bad energy from the underworld that influenced her. So she transformed from the kind and happy queen who wears light colors with flowers to the dark witch queen with black crow feathers and the rather evil appearance and behavior. But there's more to why she might have changed. More to this in a moment. At this point, if you already like this video, please smash the like button. It helps us a lot to reach the widest possible audience. And thank you for 16,000 subscribers, 6,000 in just a month. Crazy. And if you want to join our community, just subscribe with the notification bell on, otherwise YouTube won't notify you. Let's continue. What's interesting here is that when Vanessa's cat touched the Witch Queen's forehead, the Witch Queen suddenly changed again. At that moment, she suddenly remembered her past before she became evil. If we now assume that the magic stone had an evil influence on the Witch Queen, which could have changed her personality a little, then Vanessa's cat has cancelled this influence again. After that, the Witch Queen was more open and helpful. She healed everyone first, and then she even gave Asta her blood healing magic so Asta could heal Kahona and her brother. And she even gave Mars the blood control so he can change the Diamond Kingdom. A few hours ago, she wasn't even ready to heal Asta's arms and tried to lock Vanessa up and defeat all of her friends. And now she suddenly reveals the secret of Asta's swords, gives them her magic stone, releases Vanessa and tells her that she can always come back whenever she wants because the Witch Forest is her home. In doing so, the Witch Queen violates her own rule that witches are not allowed to return if they decide to live outside the Witch Forest. This is suddenly a very different Witch Queen. So it is possible that at some point the Witch Queen used the magic stone to curse the Roselle family, which resulted in her being influenced by the evil energy from the underworld, which was later cancelled by Vanessa's cat. The only thing left to explain is all of the crows who suddenly started being with the Witch Queen and how we can connect Vanessa with all that. There's this idea in the Black Clover fandom that the Witch Queen is actually the birth mother of Vanessa and that Vanessa is the only real daughter of the Witch Queen, mainly because they have the same hair color and because Vanessa has always been very close to the Witch Queen. Before Vanessa was imprisoned, Vanessa even seems to have lived in the same house with the Witch Queen. In Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent turned a raven to serve her after she cursed the girl. We saw the Witch Queen in the flashbacks with no crows or crow's feathers. But a few years later, the Witch Queen suddenly wore black feathers. Suddenly she decided to lock Vanessa up and was after her threat magic. This sudden changes in personality and interest in Vanessa's magic just doesn't make any sense, as Vanessa was completely free a few years earlier and the Witch Queen had no bad intentions towards Vanessa's magic. And this is where the crows come in. In one of our theories, we explained why the Witch Queen had contact with a crow devil called Raum. Let's start with the age of the Witch Queen. A look at the character profile of the Witch Queen shows that her age is unknown. The only three known characters with an unknown age are the Dark Triad, Vanica, Xenon and Dante, who happen to be possessed by a devil. It can be assumed that the Dark Triad no longer ages because they are devil possessed, suggesting that the Witch Queen might also be possessed by a devil. The reason everyone assumed the Witch Queen was actually around 500 years old is because of her knowledge of the Elfen massacre 500 years ago, and because Finral assumed she must be that old if she knows about the elves. But considering that the Witch Queen might be in contact with a devil, she might actually have all this knowledge from a devil, and not due to the fact that she has lived for 500 years. It is true that the Witch Queen is no longer aging, but it is not known how old she actually is and when and why exactly she stopped aging. Just because she knows a lot of things from the past doesn't mean she's as old as her informations. Otherwise, Lolopechika would have to be over 1200 years old, which is not the case. She just has her methods of accessing information from previous Heart Queens, and so the Witch Queen could also have her own source of information. Assuming that she has a source from which she has all the knowledge about the future, it could be the same source from which she obtained all the information about the past. In demonology, people who are in contact with devils often have a lot of knowledge from the past because devils are very old.
To understand whether a person stops aging when they are possessed by a devil, it's important to know that what different contracts a person can make with the devil. And here we can use Nacht's last name Faust, which refers to the book Faust by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, one of the most famous works in literature, and one of the main inspirations for Tabata when it comes to contracts between human and a devil. In this story, Faust, who is the main character, makes a pact with the devil named Mephisto. Faust wants Mephisto to make him young again, but the devil Mephisto tells him that such a portion requires the care and time that only a devil's devoted servant can give. This fits in with our explanation of why the Dark Triad stopped aging, because they serve the devil, as opposed to Asta and Nacht, who have a different contract and do not serve their devils. Nacht rules over his devils, and Asta has an equivalent contract with Liebe. Witchcraft, like mythology and demonology, is a large collection of knowledge that Tabata most likely uses as a reference for Black Clover. Most of the witches in the witchcraft actually serve the devil. In the hall of the Witch Queen, she has 2 animal heads with horns, and a flame burns between these horns. This is most likely a reference to the Baphomet. The Baphomet is a symbol that Satanists, occultists, and also witches worship, the same people who also worship the devils. It is a very important part of Satanism and witchcraft, and it is literally the most important symbol in this subject. It already gives us an idea that the Witch Queen might have something to do with the devils, and maybe even worship them. If the Witch Queen is really in contract with the devil, that devil must have something to do with the crows and her fortune telling. Since the Witch Queen has blood magic, but no magic that allows her to control crows or even gives her the ability for fortune telling, so she must have got these skills from somewhere else. This is where the devil Raum in demonology comes into play. Raum is represented as a crow, and as we know, the Witch Queen is always surrounded by crows. And not only is she simply surrounded by crows, but she also wears crow feathers, which in turn creates a perfect connection to the devil Raum. In demonology, it is described that devil Raum wears black feathers around his head and chest, and if we take a closer look at the Witch Queen, we see feathers around her head and chest. At this point, some of you may already have noticed that the person who cursed the Rosselli family also had feathers around their head, suggesting that it was not only the Witch Queen who cursed the Rosselli family with the power of the underworld by using the magic stone, but maybe the devil Raum himself who cursed the Rosselli family with devil curses from the underworld on behalf of the Witch Queen, and then could have demanded something from the Witch Queen in return. We'll come back to that in a moment. Let's move on to the attributes of the devil Raum very quickly. And here is an extremely important point. Raum can tell things of past, present, and even the future. Fortune tellers turn to Raum for information about the future. And what special skills do the Witch Queen has? Fortune telling skills. She is literally known as a fortune teller. Why would she have such an ability with blood magic that makes no sense? So she must have this ability from somewhere else. Her fortune telling is so precise that she knew something about thread magic and even knew that Vanessa's magic would one day develop. So she locked her up but eventually let her escape with Yami because she knew that Vanessa would one day come back with a different power. That power then turned out to be Asta and his magical swords. You're probably wondering why the devil Raum should tell the Witch Queen about the thread magic, and why was it so important to lock Vanessa up? The devil Raum has a strong dislike and fear of cats, and Vanessa's thread magic manifests as a cat, with Vanessa not even wantedly imagining the magic as a cat. Which means that the thread magic itself should always be depicted as a cat, and Vanessa couldn't determine the shape. This means that the devil Raum is not afraid of cats in Black Clover, but rather thread magic, because that magic can change the future that the devil Raum sees. And this is literally the only weak point of someone with fortune telling abilities. And that's why it was so important that Raum and the Witch Queen imprison the future user of thread magic. The devil Raum can also transform into the shape of a herd of crows, and that is exactly what the Witch Queen does with the crows all the time. For example, when Vanessa returned to the witch forest and stood at the forest gate, the Witch Queen sent a flock of crows to grab Vanessa and drag her inside. She even catches and holds Asta with a herd of crows, and then Asta defeats Lazarus. The Witch Queen seems to transform herself into a flock of crows that flew straight to Asta and then transform back to a human appearance. And this is another ability of the Devil Realm. They can transform themselves into a human appearance. You see, there are too many similarities to ignore the possibility that Realm has something to do with the Witch Queen. After explaining why and how the Devil Realm might be related to the Witch Queen, we can assume two things. Either Realm used their abilities to transform into a human and then curse the Roselli family on behalf of the Witch Queen, or the Witch Queen herself used the magic stone to curse the Roselli family, and later, just like in Sleeping Beauty, she used a crow as a servant, which in case of Black Clover is the Devil Realm. Let's go back to Vanessa now. If Vanessa really is the Witch Queen's daughter, who could be her father if the Witch Queen hates all men? The only person who can be her father is the person responsible for why the Witch Queen began to hate all men. If the reference to Sleeping Beauty is correct, Vanessa could be Charlotte's half-sister, since Charlotte's father betrayed the Witch Queen and could be the reason why Witch Queen cursed the Roselli family. But is there any way we can connect Charlotte to Vanessa, at least in the slightest? We found a small possible connection through Luck Walter. Many of you have possibly heard the theory that Charlotte and Luck are siblings. Although Luck was raised as a commoner, his mana capacity suggests that he must be an illegitimate child of a nobleman. The elves Luflu and Charla, who possessed Luck and Charlotte, were siblings. Charla even confirmed this when she said that unfortunately, she couldn't meet her little brother. We know that the reincarnations only work when the human hosts are a perfect match for the elven souls. So it happened that the elves who possess Gaucher and Marie are also siblings. This gives us the idea that Luck and Charlotte must be siblings too. Luck has blue eyes and blonde hair, just like Charlotte's. Everything indicates that Charlotte's father was having an affair with Luck's mother. And when Luck's mother became pregnant, Charlotte's father stopped the contact. Luck's mother later died very young, apparently from stress. But how does Luck connect Vanessa and Charlotte? When Luck joined the Black Bulls, Vanessa said that from now on, she will be his big sister, with no context whatsoever. She didn't say this to Magna, Asta, or even Noel, or any other members of the Black Bulls, only to Luck. And it wasn't just once, she repeatedly calls him her little brother. Of course, it might just be because they are friends, but considering that the Witch Queen cursed the Roselli family for the Sleeping Beauty reference because she had a relationship with Charlotte's father, and that Luck and Charlotte could actually be half-siblings. It is possible that Vanessa and Luck could have the same father as well, but then the fact that Vanessa calls Luck a brother is a possible foreshadowing. This would mean that Charlotte, Vanessa, and Luck would be three half-siblings. So, if it's true that Charlotte's father cheated on his wife with a commoner, I wouldn't be surprised that he could have done the same with the Witch Queen. And I know it's hard to believe that the Witch Queen can have anything like a love affair, but we always have to keep in mind that she wasn't always so hateful towards men. But something must have happened to make her feel like that. One last thing worth mentioning is that when Charlotte and Vanessa first met at the Star Festival, there was that brief moment that definitely showed a connection between the two. The manga portrayed that both Charlotte and Vanessa felt they had to defeat each other to get Yami's attention. But maybe they both just felt a connection between them and they just misunderstood their feelings. That moment when Charlotte and Vanessa met face to face was literally magically portrayed. In the anime version, they even competed against each other in a costume contest. Charlotte as a witch and Vanessa as a sister. Then Saul called Charlotte a witch sister. Of course, this may be too big of an interpretation, but I found it worth mentioning. So, hope you guys enjoyed our theory. If you loved our theory or have anything to say, don't forget to let us know in the comments below. And if you liked our theory, make sure you smash the like button. And if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bells turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yummy out.